What would you do if you discovered your husband wasn't just cheating on you, but had been living a complete double life for years? This woman from Reddit didn't just catch her cheating husband, she uncovered a web of lies so deep that it destroyed multiple families and exposed a conspiracy that no one saw coming. The way she handled this betrayal is being called the most intelligent divorce revenge in internet history. If you think you know where this story is going, think again. Hit that like button because this plot twist will blow your mind. Meet Lisa, a nurse who had been married to her husband Tom for 12 years. They seemed like the perfect couple, nice house in the suburbs, successful careers, 2 beautiful kids, and what everyone thought was a rock-solid marriage. Tom was a sales manager who traveled frequently for work, and Lisa trusted him completely. The first sign something was wrong came when Lisa noticed their joint credit card statements showing charges from cities Tom had never mentioned visiting. When she asked about them, Tom had reasonable explanations: client dinners, hotel changes, unexpected travel expenses. Lisa believed him because she had no reason not to. But then Lisa's best friend Sarah saw something that would shatter Lisa's world. Sarah spotted Tom at a restaurant in their hometown, holding hands with another woman, on a day when Tom had told Lisa he was traveling for business. That moment of discovery is about to trigger the most calculated investigation you've ever heard. Subscribe now because Lisa's detective work is incredible. Instead of confronting Tom immediately, Lisa made a decision that would prove to be brilliant. She decided to investigate first. Lisa started by checking their phone records and discovered that Tom had been calling the same number hundreds of times over the past 2 years, always when he claimed to be traveling. Lisa hired a private investigator, but she also did her own detective work. She secretly installed tracking software on Tom's phone, set up cameras in their house, and started documenting every lie Tom told about his whereabouts. What Lisa discovered was so much worse than simple cheating. Tom wasn't just having an affair, he was living a completely separate life. The other woman, Jessica, thought she was Tom's wife. She lived in an apartment that Tom had been paying for, and she believed Tom was divorced and that Lisa was his crazy ex-wife who was making his life difficult. But the most shocking discovery was still to come. Just when you think cheating is the worst thing Tom could do, Lisa uncovered something that made infidelity look like a minor offense. You won't believe what she found. Lisa's investigation revealed that Tom had been stealing money from their joint accounts and their children's college funds to support his double life. Over 3 years, he had taken over $80,000 without Lisa's knowledge, money that was supposed to be for their kids' education and their retirement. But it got worse. Tom had taken out credit cards in Lisa's name and maxed them out, destroying her credit score. He'd also borrowed money from Lisa's parents, telling them it was for a surprise vacation for Lisa, then used the money to take Jessica on trips to Hawaii and Europe. The private investigator discovered that Tom had been doing this for years with multiple women. Jessica wasn't his first victim, she was just the current one. There were at least 3 other women in different cities who had been convinced they were in relationships with single, divorced Tom. Lisa realized her husband wasn't just a cheater, he was a professional con artist who had been systematically defrauding multiple women, including his own wife. Lisa's next move was so strategic that it not only exposed Tom but saved every woman he was manipulating. Hit that notification bell because this revenge is a masterpiece. Lisa could have simply divorced Tom and tried to recover her money through family court, but she realized that wouldn't protect his other victims or prevent him from doing this to more women. So Lisa decided to orchestrate the most comprehensive exposure of a cheating husband ever attempted. First, Lisa contacted Jessica and the 3 other women Tom was manipulating. Instead of being angry with each other, all 5 women decided to work together to take Tom down. They shared evidence, compared stories, and realized the full scope of Tom's deception. Lisa discovered that Tom had been using the same lies, the same stories, even the same romantic gestures with all of them. He had a playbook for manipulating women, and he'd been using it for years. But Lisa's masterstroke was realizing that Tom's cons weren't just immoral, they were criminal. He had committed identity theft, wire fraud, and tax evasion. Lisa wasn't just planning a divorce, she was building a federal case. The way these 5 women coordinated to bring down their mutual manipulator is absolutely incredible. Subscribe if you love stories where the villains get what they deserve. Lisa and the other women spent 2 months secretly gathering evidence while pretending nothing had changed. Tom had no idea that his victims were working together or that every conversation was being recorded, every financial transaction was being documented, and every lie was being catalogued. The breakthrough came when Lisa discovered that Tom had been filing false tax returns, claiming business expenses that were actually money he'd stolen from the women to fund his lifestyle. This gave Lisa grounds to involve the IRS and the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. Meanwhile, Jessica had been working with the group to set up the ultimate confrontation. She invited Tom to what he thought was a romantic dinner at an upscale restaurant, telling him she had exciting news to share. Tom showed up expecting a celebration. Instead, he found all 5 women sitting at the table, along with Lisa's divorce attorney, a federal agent, and a process server. The look on Tom's face when he realized his entire house of cards had collapsed must have been priceless. Comment below, what would you have said in that moment? Tom walked into that restaurant thinking he was meeting his girlfriend for dinner. Instead, he was served with divorce papers, a federal investigation notice, and restraining orders from 4 different women, all at the same time, in front of a room full of witnesses. The evidence the women had gathered was overwhelming. Tom was facing charges for identity theft, wire fraud, tax evasion, and bigamy in multiple states. The IRS was auditing 7 years of his tax returns. His employer was investigating him for expense fraud. And his family had discovered that he'd taken out loans against his elderly mother's house to fund his cons. Tom tried to run, but the federal agents were waiting in the parking lot. He was arrested that night and charged with multiple felonies. The local news picked up the story because the scope of his fraud was so extensive. But the most satisfying moment came when Tom's mugshot appeared on the evening news, and women from 3 different states called the tip line to report that Tom had conned them too. Tom's arrest was just the beginning of his consequences. Hit that like button if you think he deserved everything that happened next. Tom pleaded guilty to multiple federal charges and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. He was ordered to pay restitution to all his victims, but since he'd spent all the money he stole, the women had to settle for garnishing any future earnings he might have. Lisa got everything in the divorce, the house, custody of the kids, and Tom's retirement accounts. More importantly, she got closure and the satisfaction of knowing that Tom couldn't hurt anyone else for at least 8 years. Jessica and the other women all received settlements from Tom's assets, though none of them recovered everything they lost. But they gained something more valuable, the knowledge that they had protected countless other women from being victimized by Tom's cons. Lisa used her experience to start a support group for women who had been financially abused by romantic partners. She's helped dozens of women recognize the warning signs and build cases against their abusers. Lisa turned her worst betrayal into a mission to help other women. If that's not inspiring, I don't know what is. Make sure you're subscribed for more stories of justice and empowerment. This story shows us that sometimes the people who hurt us the most are also the ones who underestimate us the most. Tom thought Lisa was just a trusting wife who would never question his lies. He had no idea she was smart, resourceful, and determined enough to bring down his entire operation. What makes Lisa's revenge so perfect is that she didn't just get even, she prevented Tom from hurting other women and potentially saved dozens of future victims from financial and emotional devastation. The most powerful part of this story isn't the revenge, it's the collaboration. When Lisa reached out to Tom's other victims, they could have been enemies competing for a liar's attention. Instead, they became allies fighting for justice. That's what real strength looks like. If this story of female solidarity and strategic revenge inspired you, destroy that like button, subscribe and hit the notification.